It started with the sound of his computer waking up on its own. The screen glowed pale blue in the dark, the clock reading exactly 3:17 a.m. A new file blinked on his desktop, the name pulsing like a heartbeat. Don't play this at 3:17 a.m. He hadn't downloaded anything, hadn't even touched the mouse. But as he leaned closer, the file clicked itself open. The speakers hissed, and in the reflection of the monitor, he swore something behind him moved. The static cut abruptly to black, and for a moment Ethan just stared. The computer fan whirred softly in the silence, then stopped. He reached for the mouse, but the cursor was gone. The screen remained blank until his reflection blinked. His pulse froze. He hadn't blinked. Then the reflection smiled, just slightly, and the monitor shut off, leaving him in complete darkness. He stumbled to his feet, every nerve in his body thrumming. The hum of the electronics was gone. The apartment felt drained of power, as though the static had swallowed it whole. From somewhere in the dark came the faint click of a key on his keyboard. Just one. Then another. Slow, deliberate, spelling something out. He turned, trembling, as the monitor flickered back to life, and across the black screen, words began to type themselves. "You're next." Ethan ripped the power cord from the wall, heart hammering. The light died instantly, but the words remained, burning on the screen, like afterimages on his retinas. His phone buzzed in his pocket, its glow slicing through the dark. A message from Mara. "Why are you calling me?" His stomach dropped. He hadn't touched his phone. Then it vibrated again, this time playing a distorted recording of his own voice whispering, "Watch the video." He dropped the phone and stumbled back, breath ragged, every sound in the room amplifying. The ticking of the clock, the whisper of wind through the blinds, the faint electric buzz that shouldn't exist when the power was cut. Then, softly, from the darkened monitor, came the sound of breathing, not his. Slow, shallow, almost curious, and beneath it, a voice, his own, murmuring, "Don't look away." When Ethan woke the next evening, sunlight was bleeding through the blinds. His computer was still off, or so he thought. As he sat up, the monitor blinked alive again, playing the same file on its own. But this time, there was no static. The screen showed his apartment, filmed from above, like a surveillance feed. The footage was from last night, and there he was on screen, asleep in bed. Except in the corner of the frame, a second figure stood perfectly still, watching him breathe. He stared, breath caught in his throat, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The video's timestamp read 3:17 a.m. His reflection on the monitor flickered slightly out of sync, like a frame lagging behind the real world. Then on screen, his sleeping self began to stir, and the camera in the video panned on its own, focusing on the door to his bedroom. From the darkness beyond, something moved. Something tall, impossibly thin, crawling toward the bed on all fours. The image cut to another angle, his living room. His camera, the one he'd left in its bag weeks ago, was now recording from the coffee table, showing him sitting in that exact chair, watching this same footage. But in the reflection on the screen, he wasn't alone. Behind him, barely visible, the man in the static leaned close, whispering something his microphone didn't catch. The sound was only static, but his name was buried in it, faint, like a voice beneath the noise. He lunged for the power button, slamming it down again and again, but the computer wouldn't turn off. The footage kept rolling, now showing him in real time, staring at the screen. He looked over his shoulder, his breath hitching. Nothing. Then back at the monitor. The figure was there again, closer now, standing directly behind his chair. The live feed camera zoomed in on his face, though there was no camera pointed at him at all. The video ended with a soft pop, as if a circuit had blown. Ethan sat motionless, heart hammering so hard he could hear it echoing in his skull. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a faint, mechanical whir. The camera on his desk, The one that hadn't been charged in weeks slowly pivoted toward him on its own. Its red record light flickered on, and from somewhere deep within the computer's speakers came a whisper. Act 2 begins now. Ethan tried everything. Reset, safe mode, even pulling the hard drive. But every time he turned on the computer, the same file returned. Always at the top of the desktop, its icon pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. Don't play this at 3:17 a.m. That night, he swore he wouldn't touch it. He unplugged everything, sat in silence, watching the clock. But when the minute hand hit 3:17, his speakers crackled, and a voice that sounded exactly like his own whispered, "You left me inside." The whisper deepened into a low static hum. His speakers clicked on by themselves, each pop echoing like knuckles tapping glass. Then faintly, the audio shifted into a recording of his own voice, breathing, murmuring, replaying words had spoken hours earlier. Every sound looped, layered until it became a chorus of himself, whispering from all directions, building until the walls seemed to vibrate with it. The screen blinked on again, showing his face in real time. His reflection began to speak, lips moving out of sync. "You shouldn't have watched it," it said, though he hadn't spoken a word. Then the reflection leaned forward until its forehead nearly touched the glass. "You're making another one." Ethan froze. Behind the reflection, a faint outline began to rise. Tall, distorted, reaching through the static. He stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. The video kept playing, but now it showed his apartment from an impossible angle, above, like someone hovering just beneath the ceiling. The feed zoomed slowly toward him, the frame trembling as though the camera itself were breathing. Then, the voice. His voice, layered with something deeper, whispered, "Look up." Against every instinct screaming inside him, Ethan raised his eyes. The air above him cracked with a sound like splitting ice. For a split second, something broke through. The screen's light expanding outward in a white flash that filled the room. When the glow faded, Ethan was gone from the chair. Only the monitor remained, its screen displaying an empty room. Then the camera feed began to tilt, slowly, as if something invisible had picked it up. A faint voice whispered through the speakers. Mara's voice, this time. Ethan. The apartment had never felt smaller. Ethan paced, the shadows twisting unnaturally with each step, the blue glow of the monitor bouncing off his pale, sweat-slick skin. Then he heard it, a soft, dragging shuffle behind him. He froze. Nothing should have been there. But in the reflection on the black screen, he saw it. The tall, distorted figure of the man in the static. Male, ageless, faceless, looming silently, as if waiting for the right moment. Ethan's breath hitched as the figure shifted, moving independently of the reflection. A metallic scrape echoed across the floor, though nothing touched it. He turned, heart hammering, and there it was, emerging from the black monitor like smoke solidifying into flesh. Its elongated fingers brushed the edge of the desk, bending in ways human hands should not. Ethan stumbled backward, tripping over a chair. The man in the static advanced slowly, its movements jerky yet deliberate, as if obeying some corrupted frame rate. Its face flickered, first human, then a hollow void, then static noise. The air around it shimmered, bending light. The room smelled of burnt wires and ozone. Ethan's lungs refused to work properly as he realized the entity was learning him, anticipating him, mimicking him. Ethan grabbed the keyboard, smashing keys in a desperate rhythm, hoping to disrupt the connection between screen and reality. The man in the static recoiled slightly, its limbs twitching violently, but only for a heartbeat. Then it leaned closer, so close that its reflection in the monitor's glass merged with Ethan's terrified face. A whisper rasped from nowhere. "You can't hide anymore." Before Ethan could react, the figure's hand passed through the monitor. The cold, unreal sensation shot through his arm like ice. Then fire. The monitor shattered from within, shards of glass reflecting fragments of the entity's face. Ethan fell backward, screaming, the entity's static laced brushing his cheek. For the first time, he knew. Whatever had come from the video was no longer confined to the screen. Mara arrived at the apartment before dawn, drawn by the flurry of desperate texts and missed calls. The door was unlocked. She stepped inside, camera in hand, lens trained on the living room. Ethan was on the floor, pale, trembling, muttering fragments of his own name. She raised her camera, and what appeared as shadows in the room coalesced on her screen. Tall, impossibly thin, flickering humanoid shapes, watching them from the corners, bending the walls around them. Ethan tried to explain, but words caught in his throat. Mara pressed record anyway. Through the viewfinder, the man in the static became clear, its limbs twitching, head jerking like corrupted video, a void where eyes should be. In real life, Mara could see only faint distortions, flickers at the edge of her vision. Yet on her camera's display, it loomed behind Ethan, inches from his shoulder, silent but watching. Mara stepped closer, lens trained, heart hammering. The air grew heavy, charged with an electric hum. For a brief instant, the static figure appeared fully in the room, its form visible without the cam, its head tilted unnaturally, long fingers twitching as if tasting the air. Mara's camera recorded everything, but when she looked away for a second, the figure vanished, leaving only a faint distortion behind her. Ethan's hands shook as he tried to reach for Mara, pointing toward the monitor. The video file had returned, larger now, pulsing on the desktop. Mara looked at the screen through her camera and gasped. The footage showed them both in real time, but behind Ethan, a second figure moved, a perfect mimic, his expression twisted, lips whispering words he hadn't spoken. The entity was learning. The room fell silent, save for the faint hum of the monitor. Then the camera feed began to distort, static creeping in, forming the outline of the figure in Mara's reflection. She dropped the camera, stumbling back. The entity was no longer confined to screens. It had breached the threshold, and the whisper came again, layered over their own voices. "You can't escape." Ethan couldn't breathe. Every reflective surface in the apartment, the monitor, the TV, even the dark glass of the window, was showing him, but not him. The face staring back was pale, hollow-eyed, twitching unnaturally. The man in the static had begun overriding him, frame by frame, as if he were nothing more than a corrupted video. Mara grabbed his arm, her own reflection flickering behind her like a bad signal. Ethan's reflection moved on its own. It leaned forward, lips forming words he hadn't spoken. "I am you now?" His real self tried to scream, but no sound came. Every shadow in the room began to twist, stretching toward him, merging with the entity's digital form. Mara's camera, still recording, captured the impossible. Ethan's image flickering between human and static, indistinguishable from the man in the static. The walls began to ripple, like video footage being manipulated. Ethan's reflection stepped out, leaving his real body behind. He tried to follow, but his legs refused to move, rooted to the floor. The entity's whisper filled every corner of the apartment. "You are the frame. I am the reality." Mara's breath came in short, ragged gasps as the camera picked up a second Ethan, identical in every way, but twisted and still. Ethan's real self tried to shout, to call for help, but only static emerged from his mouth. The duplicate Ethan, perfectly mirrored by the man in the static, smiled. Its face twitched and warped in impossible ways. Mara's camera feed revealed the horrifying truth. The entity had fully overwritten him in the digital space, and now it was bleeding into reality. Every surface reflected not Ethan, but the corrupted version, grinning. The monitor flared to life, showing an endless loop. Ethan's room, his own panic, himself replaced. Mara reached for his hand, but it passed through the corrupted image as if it weren't real. The entity whispered one final promise. This is only the beginning. Ethan's real self vanished into the flickering glow. Mara's camera recorded everything, a silent witness to the completion of the overwrite. The clock struck 3:17 a.m. Mara's camera lay on the floor, still recording. The monitor flared one last time. The corrupted Ethan, reflected perfectly in its glow, lips moving in a silent, mocking whisper. Your turn. Then the video file began to upload itself automatically, its file name already screaming. Across every device connected to the internet, shadows coalesced in the corners, stretching, reaching beyond the apartment walls. The room went silent, and yet the hum of the file pulsing through the web could be felt in Mara's chest. The upload progressed rapidly. Every device in the building, in the street, on the internet blinked with the file's presence. Phones rang with distorted echoes of Ethan's voice. Computers booted themselves into black screens of static. Mara could feel it, every pulse of the file, every flicker of the reflection, seeping into reality, twisting the world around her. From the camera, Mara saw it, countless screens showing her apartment, Ethan's reflection, the man in the static, and within each frame a new file. Don't play this at 3:17 a.m. Each one pulsed like a heartbeat, waiting for someone new. Mara realized with horror. The entity had left the digital world, and now the corrupted video could reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. Mara backed away. But the screens followed. Every reflection, every surface, every glow from a device was alive. The corrupted Ethan stared, grinning wider with each pulse. The man in the static bent light and shadow around the room, whispering through every speaker and reflection. Your turn. Always 3:17 a.m. The digital and real had become one. There was no escape. And then, silence. All devices went black. Mara's camera lay recording on the floor, capturing one last frame. Ethan's reflection staring from the monitor, lips moving in a whisper. A single word appeared across the screen in blood-red text. Next. Somewhere, across the city, another screen blinked to life, bearing the same file. The cycle had begun again.